Good.
He says that he's hopeful. Tim Barber says he's hopeful.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Okay.
He says he's hopeful of being open within the next couple of weeks to be able to sell. Do you see that as?
Well, I said I think it's primarily his. It's on his table, which is how quickly can he tell us that he's met all the condition and is ready for an inspection. I will say that as soon as he tells us that, we'll be able to inspect very quickly. So I think the timetable really is at his control. I hope he's right, but we need to hear back from him that all conditions have been met, and then go do our inspection and have a meeting where we discuss and vote on a final license.
He's saying a few weeks. Is that what you're? I apologize.
Yeah, no. That's the question was, what do I think? And I said, it's up to him. I mean, he's got to get back to us and tell us that he's met the conditions of the provisional license. We have to go inspect. Then we have to have a meeting like we did today where we'll discuss and vote on the final license. So really the next step is at his control.
Can you discuss
what do you say to the voters who thought that they'd be able to walk into a pot shop today and
wait, sorry, do that again?
What do you say to the voters who really did have the expectation that they'd be able to buy pot by now?
I think the same thing I've been saying for the last month, so the same question, which is, we are doing this right, we are doing this for the long term. There is no legislative mandate that pot stores were going to be open on July 1st, and we're doing this the right way. We're going to get it right. I've been saying that pretty much nonstop. Wait, one at a time, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you just address for people who are hearing, okay, there's a retail license, that means I can go buy it. So what would you like to say to people? What are the hurdles they have to
well, I think as we just discussed, we have issued a provisional license. There were conditions on that license that include fingerprinting, but the primary condition is that they have to tell us their facility has been built out or has been modified to meet our regulations. We have to go out and inspect it to ascertain that indeed is the case. Then we have to meet as a commission to vote on and approve the final license.
And there are labs, right? There's other things
involved. Yeah, there are labs that are required, but the lab part of this will be resolved in time. So I think really the next step is in the hands of the provisional licensee. And we'll, as I said, as soon as we hear back from them that they've met the conditions, we will discuss and vote on a final license. You are next.
How many labs have applied?
I'm aware of 2, and I've been told that a 3rd is pending for this week, but I don't
Completed
know.
Completed application.
That's you have to ask the executive director. I don't see until the staff makes a recommendation to the commission. I don't actually see the applications.
And will those be expedited?
We voted last week to put them at the front of the queue. Absolutely.
Is it possible that the commission may grant a waiver or something to your regulations to allow the DPH-approved labs to conduct these because they're the same labs?
They are the same labs. They need to get a license from the commission, but hopefully it's a pretty straightforward process because they are the same requirements with respect to inspection. So we're hoping that we can go through, we've expedited the process of reviewing the application, and we're hoping that once we issue, if and when we issue a provisional license application, we can go through the process of moving from provisional to final very quickly.
I'm hearing from some of the dispensaries they're concerned about confusion over 2 sets of regs that they're going to be working on. How are you working towards that?
Well, first of all, we're collaborating with DPH every step of the way, particularly for co-located facilities. The other thing is that we're also collaborating with DPH on the transition of responsibility for medical marijuana regulation from DPH to ourselves sometime as statutorily required before the end of this year. So any short-term issues, we're going to work with DPH and just make sure that we're doing whatever we need to make it work on both sides. But then we're going to ultimately have to look at the regulations, go through the same kind of process we went through last year, have draft regulations, public hearings, final regulations, and to align whatever contradictions exist between DPH regulations and our own in the process of taking over responsibility by the end of the year.
What are the requirements of transferring inventory from?
I'm sorry?
What are the requirements of transferring inventory?
DPH approval.
But what goes into that process?
Well, I'm not going to speak for DPH. So DPH has to approve. What we require is that it gets into our seed-to-sale tracking, into the metric seed-to-sale tracking system. So as long as that happens and DPH approves, but I'm not going to speak for DPH in terms of their requirements.
Do you require certification from DPH or the licensee?
I think we're going to ask DPH to confirm that they've reached an accommodation with the licensee for that. You'll have to get the specifics, but we tend to trust but verify, I think, to use Ronald Reagan's language.
It's a big day. Big day. Can you talk about it, the fact that it's a...
Is this a milestone?
Is it a milestone?
Yes, of course it's a milestone, but every day is a milestone because everything we're doing is we're making this work. But it's not just a milestone for retail. We approved our first our first manufacturing license today. provisional license, and we approved our first transporter provisional license today. So yeah, I think it's a milestone, and I hope we're making this thing work, and it's going to work out in a way that is going to work for the state, work for its citizens, and be good for public health and public safety. And we're making progress. So yeah, I think it's a big day, but it's one of many big days, and we have a lot more big days ahead of us. No rest for the weary.
You're looking forward to the day when the licensing is routine and we're not here every
No, I would miss you guys horribly if that was the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.